Have you ever had a session in your life when nothing actually made sense anymore? It's not because you stopped believing, not because you wanted to walk away from God, but because life happened in a way that your faith has never prepared for you. You prayed, yes, you believed, you waited, you tried to stay positive, you told yourself God has a plan for you, you held on to promises of the scripture, you encouraged other people, you became the one telling everyone else, do not lose your faith. And then sometime when you find yourself in a lonely space, you ask, what do I do when I don't know what to believe in anymore? Welcome to Momziba Talks. Today, I want us to have a honest conversation about something that we do not really talk enough about. How do you carry on when faith fails you? I'm not talking about deliberately abandoning your faith, because I know this is what many people's mind will want to tilt to. I'm talking about what happens when life becomes so painful, so confusing, so different from what you expected, that the faith you built your life around begins to crack. What happens then? I want you to understand that faith is more than something we just believe, and I'm going to tell you how. We talked about faith as though it's simply a decision. Have faith, keep believing, trust in God, and yes, faith matters. Faith can give you courage when circumstances are frightening. Yes, faith can give you meaning to suffering. Faith can help you to keep going even when there's no visible evidence that things will improve. Faith can make you get out of the bed one day and, go to a place where you do not even know how you're going to survive, but just find yourself there. Faith can teach you to wait. Faith has the capability to, teach you to hope. Faith can teach you that your current situation is necessarily not the final chapter of your life. But there is something about faith that we do not discuss enough. Faith can become a strong responsibility, because once you start to believe, you are expected to keep believing. Because, once people know you as someone who has faith, there is a pressure to always keep on fitting into that shoe, keep on being strong. You become the one who says the prayer, you become the one who encourages everyone, you become the one who says it will be okay. And sometimes nobody asks you, are you okay? Nobody wants, nobody asks what it costs you to keep believing. Nobody talks about the exhaustion that comes from carrying faith through a long season of disappointment. You understand? Because believing is beautiful when things are working out. Believing is beautiful. But when it is falling apart, it becomes so different. The burden that comes with faith. I'm going to tell you this burden. I took my time to digest this out. I said this out, and I said, no, this Sunday evening, I'm going to talk about this. Sometimes faith gives us another burden we do not really talk about. The burden of wondering whether we are believing enough. You prayed, but nothing changed. So you ask yourself, maybe I didn't pray correctly. Maybe I didn't believe enough. Maybe I doubted too much. Maybe I did something wrong. And now you are carrying not only the pain of what has happened, but you are carrying the guilt for not being able to explain why it actually happened. That can incredibly become so heavy, because sometimes life hurts you and make you question yourself for being hurted. I want to say something very, very clearly. Not every painful thing that happens to you is your fault. Sometimes you do not just make the wrong decision. Sometimes you didn't lack faith. Sometimes you didn't fail God. Sometimes life simply became painful. Sometimes people make choices that hurts us. Sometimes circumstances changes. Door closes. Relationship ends. Dream dies. Sometimes you do everything you know to do, and the outcome is still not what you hope for. And that one is the harder thing about life. Because if the problem was your mistake, at least you could say, I'll do better next time. But what if when you know you did your best and still it didn't work? I think there are moments in life when the walls we built around our faith begins to crack. The things we are, absolutely sure about suddenly become questions that ponders in our hearts. The answers we used to give to other people do not work for us anymore. The things we thought would never happen happens, and suddenly you stand in the middle of your life wondering, what now? And perhaps the most frightening part about the whole thing isn't just losing everything, it's losing the version of yourself that knew how to make sense of everything. Because when your faith has always been the framework through which you understood life, a crisis doesn't just affect what you believe, it can affect who you are. You don't just lose an answer, you lose your sense of direction, you lose your confidence at the same time, you lose the ability to imagine a future, and sometimes you lose yourself and become so angry, you become so disappointed, you become so numb. Sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling. Sometimes you are afraid to admit any of it because you think admitting it means your faith has completely disappeared. But maybe we need to stop treating every question as a rebellion. Maybe sometimes a question is simply a wounded person attempt to understand. It got to a time in my life where I lost faith. Let me tell you, child of God, every believer, if you've not gotten to a point where you lost your faith at a particular time, that means you have not started the journey. Yes, I tell you this truth. It's very, very deep. Many people will wrestle it, but I'm telling you for a point of fact. That means you've not really started the journey of faith. It will come to a time when you have to ask yourself, really, why is this happening? So let's look at the scenario. What if you can't believe like you used to do? Yes, it will come to that time. Because there may come a season where you cannot believe like you used to do. And honestly, that can be very, very terrifying and tell you, because everybody tells you to hold on to faith. But nobody tells you to hold on to nobody shows you what to hold on to when faith feels so heavy for you to hold. So what do? I think you start smaller, much more smaller. Don't even try to solve your entire life in a night. Don't force yourself to understand everything, because sometimes you will not understand anything at all. Don't demand that yourself become an old version of you immediately. Sometimes surviving difficult seasons begins with ordinary things. Get out of your bed. Get out of that place where you're sitting. Get out of that quiet place, that throne room where you're questioning everything. Get out of that corner where you are asking yourself, I just think I don't understand anything anymore. Take a cold shower, eat something, drink water, open the curtains, go outside, answer one phone call, tell one trusted person, I'm not doing well. Sleep, cry if you want to cry, write a journal, take a walk, sit quietly, do the next necessary thing. That's it. Sometimes the next step is not a giant leap of faith. Sometimes it's simply one more little step. Hold on to what is still true. And when everything feels so uncertain, look for the things that are still holding. Maybe you do not know what tomorrow feels like, but you know you made it through yesterday. Hold on to it. Maybe you do not have the answer, but you are still here. Hold on to the reason and the fact that you're still here. Maybe you don't know what you are believing about the future anymore, but because you choose to believe that this moment is not the whole story, maybe you cannot carry a mountain of faith today. Then try to carry something smaller, a stone of faith. Carry a sentence. I will get through this today. Carry a person, someone safe enough to sit with you without trying to fix you. Carry a routine. Carry your morning cup of tea. Carry your work. Carry your children. Carry your music. Carry your journal. Carry your breath. Carry the simple evidence that you are still alive and still moving. And sometimes faith looks like a declaration. Sometimes faith looks like a whispering. I do not understand this, but I am still here. You do not have to pretend. I think one of the most dangerous things that we can do during faith crisis is to pretend we are okay, pretend we are certain, pretend we are not angry, pretend we do not have questions, pretend we are tired, because pretending can make everyone else feel comfortable, but it doesn't heal the real you. Who cares right now? You are the most person that matters in this situation. You need spaces where you can tell the truth. I'm struggling. I'm disappointed. I'm weak. I'm angry. I do not understand. I seek answers. I don't know what I can believe right now. And perhaps most importantly, I need someone to sit with me without giving me an answer. Sometimes people do not need another explanation. They need companionship. Yes, I tell you for real. There are times when I found myself in a situation some years back, and then what I needed was not too much scriptures. What I needed was not too much advice. What I needed was somebody to just listen. Listen to my pain. Listen to the rubbish I have to say. And I'll find out that I found I found someone who sat down with me throughout those pains. I kept on talking and talking, and after everything, the person will ask, "You need a cup of water? You need to eat something now?" And I kept on talking and talking and talking, and I just get relief. Don't find yourself, if you know, talking out something, talking out the pain will give you a relief, then do it. Take that step. Don't be around people who will see you talking as if you're making noise. Now, your faith may need to change shape, and I'm going to tell you why. Here's something else I want you to consider. Maybe the goal isn't just about getting back to your exact faith that you used to have before, when you started the church, when you started believing in God, and when you started working with Christ. Maybe you are changing. Maybe your understanding is changing. Maybe your relationship with God, with yourself, with life, with uncertainty is becoming more honest. There are things that you have believed because that made you really safe before, and then life showed you that safety was never actually guaranteed. That can hurt, but it also produced something very, very deeper in your life. A faith isn't based on everything going according to your own perspective and expectations. A faith that can sit beside uncertainty. A faith that doesn't need to pretend pain is not real. A faith that can say, I don't have all the answers. I am hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm afraid. I'm still searching. Maybe that is not a failure. Maybe that is growth. Many of the preachers we have today will tell you, oh, why are you crying? You're making the devil happy because you're crying. Please cry if that would ease you at that time. Crying and going back to the word, crying and giving up on faith is failure, makes the devil happy. But crying and reboosting your faith in the Lord, even when you have nothing to lean on, that is great faith. If life has stopped making sense, what do you do? So if you're listening to me today, you are not in that season where life has stopped making sense. I don't want to give you a glitch. I don't want to tell you to simply have more faith. I don't want to tell you that everything happens for a reason. So, though that sentence can magically remove your pain, I just want to remind you are allowed to be human in the middle of uncertainties. You are allowed to make your time. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to, admit that something is broken inside of you. You are allowed to say that I missed my way. You are allowed to say I don't get where I'm standing. You are allowed to rebuild slowly. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to take the next step without knowing where the entire road is leading. Sometimes carrying on does not look so courageous. Sometimes it looks very ordinary. You wake up, you eat, you go to work, you answer the message, you take care of someone, you take care of yourself, you go to bed, and then you wake up and do it again. Don't underestimate those ordinary acts. There are seasons when continuing is actually an act of courage. Let me give you my final word for today. Maybe today you do not have enough faith for the future. That's okay. Borrow hope from today. Don't worry about next year. Don't worry about next month. Sometimes don't even worry about tomorrow. Ask yourself, what do I need to do to get through today? Today really matters. Today is what guarantees that you're going to get into tomorrow, isn't it? And do that one day at a time, one breath at a time, one small decision at a time. And if your faith has broken by life, it has been broken by life, please remember this. A broken faith does not automatically mean is a broken person, a broken vision, a broken tomorrow. You can be wounded and still remain trustworthy, confused and you are still moving, questioning and still searching, tired and you are still alive. And perhaps one day when you just look back at some seasons, you won't say, I never struggled. Maybe you will say, I struggled deeply. I didn't understand. I lost some things. I thought I would never lose. I questioned things I thought I would never lose. But somehow, little by little, I learned how to carry on. That's been my story, and I'm sharing it with you. And maybe that is the faith you need right now. Not the faith that says nothing bad will happen, But the quieter faith that says, even when life does not make sense, I will take the next step. That's enough for today. This is Mom Ziba Talks Daily Podcast. And if you are in a season where your life feels so fragile, I hope you know you are not strange. You are not alone. I've been through it. I've shared my part with you, how I survived. And you do not have everything figured out before you are allowed to keep going. Take the next step. We'll talk again tomorrow. I remain your host, Mom Ziba. Until then, be gentle with yourself. God bless you. Amen.